Hello everyone, Alistair Gold here. Oh man, wasn't even going to do a video, but I've been grumbling and groaning and so grumpy going on and on about this Eze mess that my wife said, just go and talk about it into a camera. It might make you feel better. So here I am. So let's all share in our collective pain. My word. It was perhaps somewhat apt that I came out of the cinema. Yes, it was a day off. I came out of the cinema having watched a film, The Life of Chuck, which actually was partly concerning the apocalypse. And I pretty much came out of the cinema and started getting messages galore, and it felt like the world of Spurs was on fire and there were meteors raining down and all hell was breaking loose. It was a good film as well. But, Life of Chuck. But the life of a Tottenham Hotspur fan doesn't feel so much fun right now, does it? Wow, right. Let's fill you in. That's everything that's happened in today's utter mess. So, when I went into the cinema, I don't know why we're using the cinema as a template, but it's kind of essentially my day of framing it around it. So when I went into the cinema, Spurs were expected to have their final round of talks essentially today to tie up a deal for Eberechi Eze. That seemed to be what everyone expected and the way it was all going. It was technically the final talks to agree things, but yet it didn't end up that way because this is Tottenham Hotspur and nothing ever ends up in the right way, it seems, apart from that one night. So from what I understand, today Spurs agreed to Palace's terms, agreed to the deal. They had agreed teams with Eze. The player was ready to come to Tottenham when those talks had finished today. Palace hadn't finalised the deal because they wanted Eze to be available for tomorrow night's European match. That's kind of no secret. That's been a thing. Oliver Glasner made it very clear this morning that Eze was going to start. That is a thing. However, as we well know as Tottenham Hotspur fans, you run this rather large risk if you kind of faff around over a deal, don't get it done quickly. It takes a long time. There's a long old process to it. It allows another club to potentially come in and hijack it. And in this case, it was the worst possible club for every reason, I think, for Tottenham fans, but also because of Eberechi Eze. So if you're not aware, Eberechi Eze has made no secret of the fact that he is a huge Arsenal fan. He came through their academy, released at 13, has always made it very clear that he wanted to play for them again. So my fear, personally, was always Arsenal coming in. I said it actually to someone last week when it all kicked off. I was like, please don't let Arsenal come in. And even this morning, I said to someone when I saw the news about Havertz and his injury, I was like, please, Lord, don't let Arsenal come in. Arsenal came in. They did. They came in late this afternoon, apparently, pretty much roughly, I think, when I would have been in watching the film. They didn't time it that way. It was purely coincidence, of course, because what am I in the whole grand scheme of this? They agreed to Palace's terms as well. The terms were roughly around the original release clause, about £68 million, bits and pieces all involved in that as well. And as I said, because of the connection to Arsenal, Eze chose Arsenal. Like I said, it's made no secret he's an Arsenal fan. It's always been out there. It's not some sudden revelation. You can see it. There are videos out there when we talk about it, articles where we've spoken about it. So it's there and it was a thing. But ultimately, Spurs have lost a big transfer target, a big player that Spurs fans were so excited about. They have lost them to their biggest rivals, their local rivals. It is a very painful one. Arsenal fans are absolutely having a field day, and understandably so, because let's be honest, Spurs fans, we would all be doing exactly the same if it was the reverse. So, yeah, some of the tweets I've put out about the situation, they've got Arsenal fans quote tweeting and replying. It's fair game. That's what it's all about. If you're going to do a deal like that, unfortunately for Spurs, that's what you're going to have to take. So it is another number 10 lost for this window for Spurs. It's a horrendous look, absolutely horrendous look. spending so long on a deal for another club to come and get him within a day as well. That's what makes it even more ridiculous. Essentially Arsenal have watched on, saw Spurs do a deal, and then gone perfect. There you go. With Havertz is out injured. Let's go for that, lads. And it's just madness. I mean, it is. I mean, from the Arsenal side of things, reports seem to suggest that Eze will play for Palace tomorrow night, and then he will have his medical the following day for Arsenal. So I think that still stands. In my mind, I think that's like a little bit dodgy, I suppose, in terms of if you were to pick up an injury, then it's all off. But I guess if the deal has not been finalised and signed, then it's only Palace that I guess are going to miss out there in Eze. But still, that still stands. It looks like he's going to play in that game for them, which will be obviously more of an emotional send-off for him than anything else. But, yeah, I mean, here we are. A transfer window that has, ultimately, at this point, has been plenty of talk and talks, but really should have delivered so much more by this point. It really should have. Thomas Frank's squad just isn't strong enough for what lies ahead in any shape or form. There's certain departments within it that are just not strong enough. It is another public embarrassment in the transfer market as well after what happened with Morgan Gibbs-White. With that move, as you've heard me speak about in a previous video, I feel like there was a lot more to that one. Whereas with this move, for me, it can only be seen as, I guess, just not making a bid a week or two ago at least that was big enough that Palace they couldn't turn it down. They couldn't hold off for a while. They couldn't keep him to the start of the season or play in a European game. If a big enough bid had come in, they're just like, oh, right, you got to have him. That's essentially what it is. And it just feels like Spurs had done that. We wouldn't be in this situation where you even have a choice because Havertz injured 3 days ago, whatever it was. And here we are in a situation where Spurs have missed out on a hugely exciting player that would have helped them so much and been such a key player for the now as well. Yet they're not. We're again talking about who do they move on to next for this number 10 position. And yeah, it's just poor overall, the whole situation. Yes, there's sides to it in recent days where Palace were not finalising it because of wanting him to play in this European game. That's one part. But Maddison has been injured, where are we at now? 2-3 weeks or so? I'm sorry. You go in there with your full force and you get that deal done. You don't even open that door a little bit ajar for this to happen. And it's not the first time that we've kind of seen a long protracted Tottenham transfer end with them empty-handed, unfortunately. And look, Daniel Levy himself, the club, whenever they look at things that have gone wrong within the club, they have these big appraisals. We see lots of turnover. We see things happening in the club where they've changed things. We've seen it with the medical department. It's had some changes as well. We've seen it in other departments as well. I think this whole window, I know there's just under 2 weeks left and there is still time for something miraculous to happen and to be saved. But if they get to the end of it, even I think what's happened thus far needs to be heavily analysed and appraised. But at the end of this window, there needs to be some big questions asked about how do Tottenham get themselves in these scenarios where they allow other clubs to come in. And again, look, you can say it's a player's choice in this scenario. It's between Spurs and Arsenal. He's a massive Arsenal fan, has picked Arsenal, but it should never have got to this period of time where Arsenal have been able to come in. Because they were not probably going to make that bid before the Havertz injury, were they? It didn't seem that was the case. It may come out afterwards that they'd always planned to come in and hijack this move. I don't know. But it felt like it was very Havertz kind of initiated. Not him himself, but you know what I mean, injury. So, yeah, it has to be looked at. And look, yes, you can't read minds that these things are going to happen, that a player's going to get injured. But come on. Prior experience should tell you, if you've got a really important transfer target, you've got to get that deal done. Especially when you're a club like Spurs. They're at this kind of level. They're a big club, but there are other big fish in the sea that we know can come in and get a player. In this case, yes, it was partly about being, a fan of that club as well, but also, they are a club that will be looking to challenge for the Premier League title again as well. So it's kind of also on that level as well. You cannot allow yourself to get into a scenario where you have to fight with other clubs because you're going to lose a portion of the time. Yes, they'll win sometimes, Spurs, but you are going to lose some of these battles. And it just feels like, regardless of kind of any delays on the Palace side, that Spurs allowed this situation to get to this point. Really, really just a public mess again. And then how many times have we said that about Spurs? And how many times have we said that about the way sometimes that they get themselves into these messes? I'm not going to talk yet about kind of who comes in and stuff like that, but all I would say is needs to be someone for the now. Absolutely needs to be someone for the now. Eze would have been the perfect player for right now. He would have been a huge lift, not only to the fans, but for players. He would have been a go-to person in games to unlock opponents. He would have been someone that would have driven the team on with his ability and that bit of magic he's got as well. So whoever they now go for has to be similar. It cannot be just a youth prospect. It cannot be someone that might be able to contribute a little bit now, but mainly in the future. It needs to be someone that comes in and is Champions League ready, is ready to make a huge impact for the club right now. And because of what has happened with the last two attempts to get a number 10 signing, they've left themselves, whatever it is, 12, 13, 14 days of the window left. It's not even that, is it? It's just ridiculous. And everyone's going to see them coming. Everyone knows they're coming. Everyone knows they have the money to sign Eze and Gibbs-White. They're going to have to go out there, and I know this is such an overused expression, but they're going to have to act like a big club. They are going to have to go out there and put the money down to sign someone that is big and that the other club just cannot refuse their offer. It's just the only way they're going to save this window, really. Otherwise, they're going to leave Thomas Frank in a situation where he's going to be kind of doomed to fail because he's not going to have the numbers and quality required to compete in all four competitions. I mean, Savinho, we need to kind of see what's going to happen with that. But it feels like it's a door that's all but closed, unless Spurs come in and make a huge, huge bid for him. But you kind of feel like City are maybe drawing a line in the sand there with him. And as I've said before, understandably so, because I think he's fantastic talent. And he would be someone that is for now and future. He would do it all. But even if you were to sign him for big money, I think you'd still need a number 10. I know he can kind of play as a number 10, but you need a natural number 10 and the centre-back that Thomas Frank wants. And you've got to get some players still out the club as well. I saw some of the talk about Richarlison heading out as well, which kind of feels timing-wise absolutely horrendous right now. And I get in the past, I've said it myself, that Spurs would have accepted a decent bid for Richarlison in the past because of his injury issues and because of his availability problems. But right now, he's playing incredibly well. And Solanke, is not fully fit yet. And I get the kind of Visser angle to it and bringing Johan Visser in instead of him. I get that. But if I'm Richarlison, I probably don't want to go either. It feels like another horrendous timing thing again, which... I don't know. We'll see how that one evolves. And look, I've said before, Thomas Frank, I think, would love to have Johan Visser in his Tottenham side, in his squad. Would it right now be for Richarlison out the door? That's a big call. And again, look, Richarlison may have an injury issue and he may struggle in a week or two's time. We don't know. But right now, he is absolutely on fire. And it just feels like such crazy timing. But look, I don't know. We'll see what happens with that. But absolutely, they need to kind of get moving on things, and it needs to happen really, really quickly, which is mad when you look at the span and length of this window and how much kind of time things have taken. It is so frustrating as well because they are kind of playing into the narratives. They're playing into the criticisms of Tottenham. They're playing into the dealing late in a window thing. And there's no getting around it. Whatever the attempts that have been made for Gibbs-White, for Eze, essentially, they are going to be that, again, trying to operate at the end of a transfer window club. And it smacks of opportunities rather than planning. And it's not good. It's an awful look. And it is an awful look. And I think it will continue to raise questions about the way they go about their recruitment. Especially when Thomas Frank has come from somewhere like Brentford where they've always had such a clear policy in the way that they do their transfers. And it feels like he's come to Tottenham and it's just not good. It's just not good at all. Oh, my goodness. It's a shame because I thought my next video was going to be about Eze coming in. We could talk about how exciting that was, and we could talk about how Christian Romero, what a brilliant thing happened. He signed a 4-year deal. It kind of came a little bit out of the blue, that one. It was brilliant. New captain, new contract, 2029. And that's fantastic. You know, I don't want to detract from that with all of this, because the interview were really great. He did 2 English interviews in the last week or so, which were great. Thomas Frank speaking about it, he's been great, and we'll talk about him more with Thomas Frank on Friday. But unfortunately, right now, everything's just dominated by what they're not doing rather what they are doing. It's this is the problem. It's just such a public embarrassment, I think, for the club. It is. I was going to do a loan roundup, but it kind of feels like now there's, you know, it's not the right time. Very quickly, I can tell you, Will Lancashire, Alejo Vilis, Alfie Devine all scored goals over the last few days for Oxford, Rosario and Preston, respectively. Mikey Moore came on late last night, Rangers' horror show in the Champions League qualifiers. He came on after the horror show, I should stress. Others, mainly of the loan round, I think there's 11 players out at the moment. Most of them came off the bench. Wasn't a lot of starters in the last game. But yeah, it just kind of all feels a little bit like all eyes on what has to come next at Spurs, because honestly, I'm just going to keep going back to that Jack Grealish summer. It's still seen inside the club as one of the biggest kind of messes of the kind of transfer windows that they've had over the years, but this one feels like it could be heading in that direction if they don't sort it out. They need to move swiftly. They cannot be waiting until the last 24 hours, 48 hours of this window, because also the clubs won't want to sell. They won't be able to get replacements in quickly enough. It messes up their own plans for the season if you're trying to do that. This is why you need to have operated so much quicker than this. But there you go. I feel like I'm going to go around in circles just whinging and moaning and being grumpy about this. But it is, it is what it is. It's another mess in this transfer window. And all eyes are on what happens next. And I feel like I've said that a million times as well. So there you go. Life of Chuck, life of a Tottenham Hotspur fan. Always something happening, not always good, unfortunately. There you go. Right, I'm going to sign off. Just a quick video. All this was. Sorry for me moaning and whinging at the end of your evenings, or if you're watching this in the morning. I'll be digging into it all tomorrow. I'm properly back at work tomorrow. It was just my normal Wednesday day off. One Wednesday, one weekend day off. No more holidays. Sorry, everyone's saying, have you got a holiday? I have not. Not for a few months. We have a very quick holiday coming up then as well. It doesn't matter. It's not about my holidays. It's not about that whatsoever. It's about Tottenham Hotspur sorting things out and getting Thomas Frank a squad that is good enough to compete on all these 4 fronts that they have stated, that Daniel Levy has stated they must compete in. It's going to look ridiculous if they reach the end of this window, having made a big proclamation that Ange Postecoglou was not able to compete in all 4 competitions and then not provide his successor with a squad to do so. That would be just the ultimate in ridiculousness. It really would. Right, I'm going to head off because I'm just getting more and more annoyed the more I talk about it. So, as always, stay healthy, stay safe, look after yourselves. I shall catch you later. Goodbye.